In the first video, we learned that Martin Luther had been condemned to death because of the unrest caused by the thesis he published. He had also escaped to Germany, where he translated the Bible into German. Check out the first video for the whole story. The Reformation started moving in directions that bewildered him. The monks and priests renouncing their vows and getting married. He himself was surprised by the fact that he had a wife and was at home, which was in sharp contrast to the celibacy vows he had taken. There was much confusion as religious fanatics, political radicals, ignorant religionists who were led by visions rather than by the word, and had drawn some of Luther's previous disciplines after themselves, to the extent that peasants who were rising up against their feudal lords claimed backing of Luther's writings. Luther was called to restore order to the turbulence in Wittenberg as a result of the movement, but he disowned their cause, and he who was once a hero was now considered a traitor. He was, however, relatively safe in Saxony, as Frederick the Wise, ruler, promised him protection. Outside of Saxony, it was still risky of him to travel. 8 years after writing the 95 Theses in Wittenberg, and 4 years after he courageously made his "Here I Stand" defense at Worms, he was hated by the Pope, peasants, and harassed by religious fanatics. Enough for him to feel the Reformation had lost its bloom. At age 41, he married Catherine von Bora. Catherine was almost 16 years younger than Martin and had been in a nunnery since she was about 10 years old. She ended up in the nunnery because she could not get on with her stepmother due to her quick wit and sharp tongue. She took her vow 6 years later. Tracts by the Reformation had been going round, and some had secretly ended up at the nunnery. There were also rumors that nuns and monks were leaving their monastic houses to follow this man who taught that salvation was a gift from God, not to be earned by religious observances. Thus Katie and 11 other nuns secretly sent word to Martin that they wanted to leave the nunnery and sought his help. This was to prove very difficult for Martin, as the nunnery was in the territory of Duke George, an arch-enemy of Martin, and who had executed one man who planned to help some nuns escape. Luther therefore had to devise a foolproof plan. The plan was carried out by having the nuns hide in empty barrels that had delivered smoked herring to the nunnery and were returning to town. The nuns thus escaped to their parents' homes and were at Martin's, where he tried to find jobs and husbands for them. Finding jobs for them would not be as easy as they were not trained in housekeeping, and they were considered past their prime, as most girls at the time married at age 15 or 16. Martin did not consider himself as one to marry one of the nuns, as he felt he might soon be killed as a heretic. He, however, ended up marrying Catherine von Bora, who was then in the temporary employment as a househelp to Lucas Cranach, Martin's neighbor. Katie had fallen in love with a young man from a distinguished family in Nuremberg, but the family did not want their son to marry a runaway nun. This left Katie heartbroken, but she also later rejected the man suggested to her and decided to choose her own suitors, one being Martin himself and the other a fellow professor. At the same time, it had been discovered that the nuns had run away, and there were rumors that Martin had them in Haarlem. Martin visited his aged parents and discussed the possibility of marrying Katie. His father had always been against his son going to the monastery and was happy that he was out, could marry, have children, and carry on the family name. And of part 2. Have a good day. Leave me a comment and subscribe to get all the other parts of this story.